All right, let's jump right into it. You've probably seen the headlines, right? Gold hitting record highs. But here's the thing, something much, much bigger is happening. It is not just about gold. We're talking silver, platinum, and even copper. They are all soaring. So what is going on here? Let's dig in.
So this is the core question we need to answer. Are we just looking at a hype train that's going to run out of steam? Or are there some really deep, fundamental forces pushing this whole group of metals way, way up? To really get a sense of the scale here, let's just look at the numbers. And trust me, they are pretty mind-blowing. Okay, first up, platinum. In a single year, its value has shot up by an incredible 146%. That is a massive, massive move. And look at this. Silver is right there with it, surging 143% over the same period. This isn't some tiny little uptick, folks. This is a monumental leap. And gold, the one everyone's been talking about, even it has posted a huge 71% gain. And to top it all off, we have copper, climbing 38%. This just proves it, right? This rally is across the board. It's not one metal story. It's the whole market catching fire. So if you're looking for one single reason, you're not going to find it. The real answer is that this is a perfect mix. It's a bunch of really powerful things all happening at the exact same time. So let's break them down, starting with the big picture. Okay, so let's zoom out and look at the three major forces shaping this whole macro environment. Think of these as the high-level trends that are basically fueling this entire metals rally. We're going to tackle these one by one. First, you've got fear making a comeback in the global economy. Second, you have this massive, consistent buying from a very powerful group. And third, there's this widespread expectation that interest rates are going to be cut. So let's start with step one, fear. You know how it is. Whenever the world feels a little shaky, we're talking geopolitical tensions, trade wars, worries about a slowdown, investors run for cover. And their favorite place to hide? A safe haven asset. Gold is the king of safe havens, and as gold soars, investors start sniffing around for deals in other precious metals, and that pulls silver and platinum right up along with it. Now for the second major force, and honestly, this one is a giant, central banks. These guys are huge buyers of gold, and they are not playing a short-term game. This quote says it all. They buy for the long haul. This year, even with prices hitting all-time highs, central banks in places like China and Turkey have just kept on buying and buying. And that creates this incredibly strong floor of demand under the market. And the third macro force? It's all about the promise of interest rate cuts. So here's how it works. When markets think rates are about to be cut, the US dollar tends to get a bit weaker. It's kind of like a seesaw, right? The dollar goes down, and bam, the price of metals, which are all priced in dollars, goes up. It's a simple relationship, but it is powerful, and it's just adding more fuel to this fire. Okay, so that's the big picture that's lifting all the boats. But each metal has its own unique story, and we've got to start with silver, because it is living this fascinating double life right now. This is what makes silver so interesting. On one hand, it's acting like its cousin gold. It's a safe place for investors to put their money when they're nervous. But on the other hand, it's an industrial powerhouse. Silver is absolutely essential for solar panels, for electric vehicles, for all kinds of electronics. And right now, industrial demand is at record levels. But the supply? Well, it's struggling to keep up. So you've got investors and industry all chasing a limited amount of silver. What happens? The price just takes off like a rocket.
All right, next up, platinum. And its story is less about crazy demand and a lot more about a classic supply squeeze. It really all boils down to one word, scarcity. See, platinum's supply is super concentrated in just a handful of places around the world. That makes it really vulnerable. The market is already in a deficit, which just means we're using more than we're digging out of the ground, and mining itself is under a lot of pressure. So when supply is this tight, even a tiny bit of tension or a minor hiccup can cause prices to absolutely jump. Now let's switch gears to copper. While gold is all about looking to the past for safety, copper's all about the future. They even call it the metal with a PhD in economics, because its price can tell you a lot about where the global economy is headed. And it's pretty easy to see why. Copper is critical for pretty much everything the future is being built on. We're talking the green energy transition, electric vehicles, upgrading infrastructure and power grids all over the world. So you've got this massive long-term demand story, but on top of that, short-term supply is getting squeezed by things like tariff fears and countries stockpiling the metal. It's just another layer of upward pressure. So we've looked at the big macro forces, we've looked at the individual stories for silver, platinum, and copper. Now let's pull it all together and figure out the bottom line.
This table really sums it up perfectly. Gold's rally, it's driven by the need for protection. Silver, it's got a 1-2 punch of both protection and industrial demand. Platinum is all about that tight supply, and copper is being propelled by this collision of huge future demand and very real current shortages. Each one has its own engine, but they are all pushing in the same direction, up. And really, that's the key thing to take away from all this. If this was just a rally built on fear, you might think, it'll probably fizzle out. But because it's being propped up by steady central bank buying, by real and growing industrial demand, and by actual physical supply problems, well, that suggests this whole thing could have some serious staying power.
And that leaves us with one final big question to chew on. As we move forward, which one of these powerful forces is going to be in the driver's seat? Will it be investor fear? Will it be the relentless pull of industrial and green demand? Or will it be the hard reality of just plain scarcity? The answer to that, well, that's what's going to define the next chapter for this great metal rally.